let me share my experience in the e-governance domain with you, because this is one hot area which is really popping up like anything. You know, you find government doing big projects of several million, dollars, and you have big industry people moving in the governance domain, like Nandan Nilekani, and actually many other people who might be vying for a career in that. In fact, there's a very interesting thing when I joined e-governance domain. That was in 2006, and it was a first of its kind for me, first of its kind of an exposure for me. And when I joined, there was something which I was told. And the first line, if you read, every e-governance project management presentation that was shown to us or given to us, the first line was present in all of them, which said that 70% of the e-governance projects fail. Now I don't know whether it's 60% or 70% or 80%. Naturally, the key question was why? Why they fail? And then the presenter would present all sorts of definition and all sorts of things as to scope is not defined, and the normal project management domain, you don't have a team in place, you don't have a scope in place, you don't have the mechanism in place, and all that kind of thing. But then again, an interesting fact was that 30% of them were successful as well. I thought, let me try to understand why these 30% are successful. Okay, so I thought, let me try to ascertain what is the method that these 30% have followed, and why they were successful and not follow the path that others were following. Most of the practitioners, they always say this, that in the entire domain of e-governance, E is pretty small and governance is big. But what exactly they mean is that, as all of us have limited time to speak, I've been allotted around 20 minutes. So they used to say that, okay, let me speak about E because that's the small component. I will be able to finish it in 20 minutes. And governance is something that, that will keep on going on. So let's forget it. So that was quite intriguing. Now this is something that all of us know. So I need not have to explain you the constraints that exist in the project management domain. You have, scope, cost, and time. These are all constraints that we all know of. In a government domain, as my friend told, that scope is quite important in defining success and failures of your project. In government, there is no scope. A project management in government domain operates on a very fluid scope. Or I would say there is no scope at all. Time again it's leisurely. You don't have 2 years to finish. You don't have 1 year to finish. It can go on. It's like a 5-year plan. India probably is the first nation that started this concept of 5-year plan. Back in 1951, and still we are. Even in our 11th plan, we are still planning. Okay, we'll remove poverty, we'll improve education, and all that kind of thing. Most of the projects in e-governance today operate on the same. Cost goal is no challenge. You have ample money available. So there is nothing to worry about that, okay, my boss will bug me up, why your cost has increased by 10%, 20%, or all that kind of thing. So it's a very interesting thing that operates. Anything which defies project management is actually project management in e-governance. But then let us try to understand what exactly is project management in e-governance. It's a heavy legacy-based environment. Heavy legacy-based. There is no new project. You have to carry forward what is existing. You have to transform what is existing. It's like an old man or an old woman, and you really need to apply makeup in making that person look beautiful. So e-governance, or IT reforms, or whatever you want to call it, or project management in government is something like that. As my friend said, that stakeholder recognition is an important aspect in project management. In government, there are multiple stakeholders, and sometimes you are not aware who exactly is your stakeholder. There is no accountability. Accountability, when I say that neither the stakeholders have an accountability, nor the project manager has an accountability, nor the system has an accountability. Then there is a negligible user interface, in both front end as well as back end. someone conceptualize a project, it's a top-down approach. He says, okay, I feel that from tomorrow onwards, my department should behave like this. And then that mandate flows down. While the user doesn't understand why he's doing it. Okay? Then, there are multiple challenges in terms of technology, processes. Every department tends to follow a different process. There are different technologies which are being implemented at various places. In fact, an interesting thing is that in most of the places or in most of the legacy system, there's an organization called National Informatics Center, or NIC, which has been like big daddy of IT in government. You'll find that even their softwares don't interact with each other. Okay, even the systems that they have built up, doesn't interact with each other.
Because they outsource it to various agencies.
Yeah, probably that is also one of the things. But also, it's like they also don't behave it like a single entity. Okay. Then administrative structure is such that you don't have an understanding of interdependencies. You must understand that governance as a process is never a unitary process. Okay, I'll explain you through my case what I mean by unitary and what I mean by interdependencies. Typically what happens is when there is a large project, we always know what exactly are the components which are there in large projects. We try to ascertain the interdependencies of those components. And then we try to develop a big framework as to how we take it. In common, because there is multiplicity of departments, there is multiplicity of authority, so there is lack of clear interdependency in terms of what process will have effect on what realization. Now let us, I would request a minute from you to forget whatever you know about it. Whatever knowledge that you have gained over the years in project.
That's unethical.
Just free up your mind. It should be like a plain canvas. And then let's try to understand what exactly is project management in a government. As a layman who doesn't know anything about project management, but as a common person with a common sense. In government, the biggest problem is that they don't understand what is a project and what is a program. Or whether the e-governance implementation that they are undertaking, whether it's a project or it's a program or it's both or it's none. Whatever you call it. You might call it portfolio, but they don't have any terminology for it. And these are two terms, I don't know whether they exist in books or not, but this is something which I thought probably should be there when one speaks about project management in a government domain or program management in a government. You have projectized programs and you have programized projects. I'll tell you what exactly is meaning of these words. But in government, these are the two kinds of format which exists in terms of implementation of e-governance. Okay, let me try explaining. Okay, first let me tell you what are key challenges for a project manager in a government one. That's also interesting, and then I'll explain you about the definitions of the terms that I give. Often what happens is that mandate of one is component of the other. Again, I'll explain you in my case what exactly we know that. There are multiple departments who are working together. They have different projects which aim at creating an ecosystem of unity. A project for one is a very small component in the project of the other people. Like for example, all of you have passports. Right? When you applied for a passport, there was someone from your local police station who had come and done your validation. Passport is issued by Ministry of External Affairs. Local policeman belongs to the state police, which comes under the Ministry of Home Affairs of the state. Now, Ministry of Home Affairs of the state is an independent body. Ministry of External Affairs is an independent body at the center. This is at the state. Okay, so they both are integrating together. But if one were to take a project, and naturally there are certain projects, like for example, there's a police modernization project. Now, police modernization project doesn't have a component for verification of antecedents of passport holders. While for passport issuance, it's an important thing. The maximum cases of delay happen at that particular point. So, meaning what? The mandate of one is component with the other. Sometimes existent, sometimes non-existent. Similarly, when we see in a case, it's a very small thing, but we'll see how it happens. An important aspect to understand in e-governance is what is business and what is governance. In our kind of environment, means in your kind of environment, you know what your business is. You are into EPC, you are into software development. You know that if I work so much, if so many man-hours are put in place, I'll earn so much. But what exactly is governance? Governance doesn't have a face. Is managing traffic governance? Is issuing of railway tickets governance? Is providing of utility bill governance? It can be, it is business, but it is also governance. Right? So understanding that out of the total functionality that a government department is offering, how much is business and how much is governance is extremely important. We'll see how these two factors are important in success and failures of various e-governance projects. Okay. And then again, an important aspect in e-governance, as I said, is to understand how the two programs or how the two projects or how the two portfolios, as you would like to call it, are integrated with each other or how independent are they from each other. Okay, so that strength of that umbilical cord is extremely important to ascertain in order to determine how much a project will be successful or whether it will be a failure. First, I'll actually take you to this slide. This is a better. Okay, we discussed about projectized programs and programmized projects. Just spend a minute in understanding these diagrams. I try to make it quite simple, but naturally there are chances of improvement in that. A projectized program is, in a government paradigm, a big program, like let us say for example railways, where you have individual project components well defined to finish one and then move on to another. And this continuous improvement keep on happening. But yes, every step that you are taking is well defined, follows the rule of PMBOK or whatever project management methodologies that we know. It finishes and then it moves on to others. And what's a programmized project? It's an ever-going thing. It's like when you reach the goalpost is moved behind. So you again have to. And this is a common feature which happens in government projects because you have a definite starting date, and that's a date when the minister cuts the ribbon, or when the minister makes a speech that okay, I kick-started this particular project, but you don't have a definite end date. Often it happens that you reach at certain level, and then that particular things keep on continuing, and something new starts up, which tags on to it. And both these things keep on happening at the same moment. Like for example, again I'll take example of land records is one area where India has many states have done some projects, or for that matter even for police modernization. There are many states who have put in IT infrastructure in place for land records. Probably your registering of registries and your project, you basically your revenue records and all that kind of thing.